Anna is a recently unemployed CTO, and she believes that AI's infrastructure costs are driving deep tech layoffs. So if she's right, if Anna's right, and more layoffs are coming in that sector, how should displaced IT executives reposition themselves to stay relevant and in demand? Mark, we'll start with you, then we'll bounce over to Judy.
So last night I was coaching an executive who's a CTO who works in the AI space. Okay.
See what I did there?
This wasn't a layup, a setup, but in fact, last night, true. And by the way, I love AI. I use it every day. I use it extensively. AI is my friend. I embrace it. So I'll come back to that, how it applies to executives. So for this individual, first of all, this is an example of a technology. It's going to be our friend, it's going to be our enemy, but let's put it to good use. This individual is positioning themselves as I bring insight towards profitability. So how can we use the power of a tool to help a company run better, be more agile, save time, and find new opportunities? So I think with AI, it is in some sectors will continue to take on some of the more transactional stuff, maybe the more insightful stuff. You got to find a place where you play. And yeah, things are changing. The world's changing. And if you're going to market in the technology space, you've got to show that you know how to use these tools and use them towards a company's advantage and benefit. I think there lies a wonderful opportunity today for someone who's a professional in the tech space to differentiate themselves for the masses. It's not about installation of systems and technology. It's about helping a company realize the reasons why they would put systems like this in the first place. So be the one who's leading this effort. Show that you can lead these types of efforts and not be on the defense of these efforts. And I think there lies the opportunity. So this individual who I'm working with, is really putting themselves out there as the balance between business meets technology enablement and positioning themselves, I think, quite sharply on how they're going to be able to do this better than most. That's my add to that space.
I would say too, for yes, everything has evolved. The whole world, and when you look at everything, not just IT, but as a leader, one of the things that an executive search committee is looking for is we need you to be what I call a helicopter. So I've got you here and you're operating, you're very strategic. So every single company is using AI. And just what Mark said, you've got to be astute in these technologies. Like I said earlier, you got to be agile. So as the market is changing, you're changing with it. But what value are you adding to the organization to help them to be profitable in how they're using their technology? What types of things are going, and let me say this too, even though you're at this helicopter, because you have to stay at the helicopter level, because in a leadership role, when you're making decisions about IT, let's say here, you have to also know how it's going to impact the rest of the organization. So, but there are times when you do have to drop down in the weeds. So I would say you can't just be at a surface level in IT. I think you have to have some foundational knowledge as well, because when your team is struggling, sometimes you do have to drop into the weeds and start to help them. But then once you start to get a solution going, then you get yourself back up in that helicopter. So you make sure you don't want to get caught with not being able to see the forest for the trees kind of thing. So I think that's the key. Even though technology is coming over, I mean, even look at the way resumes are being sifted through AI systems and stuff. That's always going to be there. That's always going to happen. And that's part of change. But as a leader, how do you work with that change to help the organization to be more successful, more profitable? And I think that's also will help you so that even as AI may be eliminating some roles, those that can work with that tool and implement them to make the companies more successful are really the leaders that will see themselves in a good position.
And just to add on to that point of value, a technology leader who could help show how they help an organization manage change is invaluable. It's the adoption of new technology, to show how they've worked with major initiatives in their role, and as they look forward to the new opportunities, be able to point out, I not only help, find great technology, I help put it in a place where it becomes the DNA of the organization, where it's the way we do business and almost becomes transparent behind the scenes. And again, this speaks to the helicopter, it speaks to the ability of really knowing how to get the best bang out of the buck for investment in technology. So flipping it around, making it our friend, versus something to be defensive about. And I think that's what companies would aspire to find someone like that.
And I'll just add this too, a little bit like HR, and maybe I'm just self-serving because I'm in HR, but I know laws. I know how to work with unions. I know. So when I go to leaders, they're relying on me to bring that expertise. The same is true for IT. Leaders don't want to get caught up all in the SAS and the programming and all that kind of stuff. That's very overwhelming for them. You are the expert bringing that to them. And in sometimes one of the things I value is sometimes those leaders that can make very complicated things, they can put it in layman terms so we can all understand. Because sometimes you have to go to leadership or an organization and say, I need $1 million to make this major change. It's going to help us to move forward, but we're going to make 3 million as a result of doing this. So you've got to be able to translate some of these complex things into very layman terms for leadership to understand how it's valuable for them. But because you know how to do that, oh, you're just invaluable. So that's the key, is that you've got to be able to make your mark.